We're rolling, Dan. Welcome to my podcast world.
It's a dream coming true, man.
Stop it.
It took us like a month to just coordinate this, so it's better be good.
Yeah, I did set a standard for myself, so I have to keep it up somehow. And it's not the perfect place because I'm here in a small room in a rehab facility, and I'm trying to accommodate everything. And I wanted to have you on because you have such a variety of experiences, and that's gonna make the listeners really. I think it's a worthwhile conversation because you have a lot of inputs from different areas, different cultures, different roles, and different views of seeing the game. So I hope I'm gonna extract all the possible information that I can in an hour, 15 minutes.
Let's do our best.
Okay. What do you we did work together. People may not know. So what do you remember from us working together in CSKA with Coach Ettore?
For me personally, it's been a very influential year. And you touched it a little bit in the beginning. I'm 50, almost 50, 51. And one thing that I've noticed about myself and that I kind of take pride in is, let's say, the willingness and the ability maybe to shift between positions. And I came to CSKA to work with Ettore and you and Dima Shakulin. And it was after a few years already that I've been a head coach here in Israel, and after being assistant coach in Maccabi, etc. And it was the first time that I did that, or the second time, sorry, that I did that move. And in retrospect, I feel it was great. It's great to change because now I'm doing a completely different job for the second year, front office job, management, at GM, and you just see that your brain is working differently, your perception, your vision at things, and it's good to take a break, once in a while in what you do and look at things at different angle. It was my first time working with Ettore. We did that again 3 years ago, different experience. Ettore is a very important person, important figure in my life. And yeah, I remember it as a great year.
But yeah, that's the thing that we're going to talk about, the shifting roles and the different angles that you look at it from those roles. But what made you, like you said it right, the willingness to change? Because a lot of people are not willing to change. They're like want to stay that role because they feel like if you go from head coach back to assistant coach, maybe a step back, and then they're afraid maybe to go to a front office role because they may not be able to shift back. What motivates you to do that and to be open for those opportunities?
Yeah, well, first of all, let's be honest. I did not just go anywhere, to be an assistant coach. I went to be an assistant coach to Ettore, who's a legend to a lot of people and to myself for sure. I'm not sure that I could do it with anybody else. I'm not selling this idea of this egoless guy that would go and take, but it was always good places. But at the same time, life experience. And I think that talking to you, I know you, and I know that we share the same opinion that, our jobs, we're lucky and fortunate to do what we do, and that it's a big and important piece in our lives, but life has a lot of more factors into it, and the ego needs to be, people need to just remember that we're all the same, and it's not a big deal at all to take a step sideways, backward, whatever it is. I don't look at it as such, and I just saw that for me, myself, my growth, my just who I am as a person and as a professional, it was great. You go, you learn more things. It's hard to learn. We always, coaches always learn new stuff all the time. It's really hard to do it when you are the head coach all the time. That's the only thing you do. It's harder. When you're a head coach, you want to do things the way you believe. Some people are more judgmental and have more ability to reflect at what they do, but it's harder. And when you are not the leader and you are not the decision maker, it's easier. You open to new things, new ideas, and you're working with people that you can learn from, and that's the first thing.
That's the thing that I also like. We're fortunate to be working at these positions and at this level, and experiencing like both sides. And you see it from both angles. You interact with players from two different angles. It's very. It can be mind shifting. It can help you progress to when you go later on to a different role. And that's what I mean. Also, what you said is very important. That it depends who you're learning from. You know, it depends who you're working with. It depends what environment you put yourself in, and that you're able it's in learning inducing environment where you can actually grow as a professional as well. So I think that's important. But let's start with the assistant coach role that many people may have forgotten that or may not know even that you were also a part of the great Maccabi team with that won 2 Euroleagues in a row. And from our Lithuanian listeners, with Sharas, you worked with Sharas as an assistant coach. What do you remember from those times working with Sharas? Just to give people a little candy here and there about Sharas.
Yeah, that's a podcast by itself.
It is.
So there was, yeah, I was 27 years old, and there was a big breakthrough for myself. I was assistant coach in Jerusalem, and for 2 or 3 years, and coaching the juniors. I started coaching when I was very young, and then Maccabi. I mean, people know that, but Maccabi in Israel still is, but back then it was, a company that you can never imagine. Like it was, Pini Gershon used to say that there are probably 2, 3 factors: a very famous band, the Air Force, and Maccabi. These are the three things in Israel. And it was a very powerful organization. And Pini Gershon called me, so it was diving into the heart of one of the biggest franchises in sports in the biggest year. So Final Four was planned to be in Tel Aviv, was in Tel Aviv. Worked with Charles 2 years, and then he became a coach, and I'm thinking about him now, and I'm a big fan. So I think, it also reflects about, I mean, we live in the same profession, and I grew up as an, I would say, from the data. I was never a player. I was never a professional player. And I grew up from watching the game, learning. I was a young coach, always with watching the latest DVDs and reading the material, etc. And I was always intrigued by, or let's say, fascinated by people that come from different background, like ex-players. And, that's also, there's such big variety of people who were ex-players, and, what kind of personality and experience they bring with them. But the top ones, kind of, in my mind, kind of have everything, because they have a different understanding of players, teammates, vision of the game, what they believe in. Yeah, I know what I like as a coach, and I like this one, and I learned from him, and the numbers show this, and I'm very data oriented. But it's different when you are, when you're Sharas or Oded Katash or these guys that really played it, really have they have it in their bones what they believe in. And Sharas, as we all know, is a very, very smart guy. He was unbelievably smart as a player, opinionated, and genius. That's that was the story when he was a player, and that's now when he's a coach.
That's I was pretty similar age when I went to CSKA, 28, I think I was 28, 29. And that's the thing that also Ettore was saying when he went to go be an assistant at San Antonio, that he also never was a player at a higher level, but then learning from the players as an assistant coach, especially then later as a head coach, you also continue to learn. Do you remember certain things at that age when you made this jump and you had to absorb new information? Because for me, the processing speed, the speed of the game was completely different, and it was the execution of everything was much faster. So for me, to process things and then learning how the players think was very important. But do you remember certain concepts that you learned right away that had like a steep learning curve as a young assistant coach?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I've noticed, and I think, is that it takes a long time to really figure out who you are, or especially as a coach. So, me personally, it happened to me way later than I started coaching. When I just started, I became a head coach. It happened to me when I was relatively young in Jerusalem, like big organization. It was right after the Maccabi experience. So Jerusalem was like the second best place in Israel. I grew up in Jerusalem, and after those 3 years in Maccabi, where we won the Euroleague twice and reached the finals in the third time, then Jerusalem hired me as a head coach, and then I started coaching for a few years. And in retrospect, I didn't know who I am back then either. I just copied a lot of things that I
You
saw
thought
with
you knew, though?
English.
You thought you knew?
Of course, like all of us, we always, that's, I don't know what the name of this rule is, that the less you know, the more you think you know everything. And the more you know, the more you think you don't know much. And I see, in retrospect, that was like, hey, I mean, after Maccabi, you were so influenced with how we played. And yeah, there was a revolution in the game back then. And I learned a lot over there, but I did a lot of things, copied a lot of things, and luckily for me, some of it worked. But really, to figure out who I am happened later, and Ettore had a lot to do with it. And I think the first time that I really realized that it's the players' game was with Ettore. And Ettore was, I think, I even heard it from him for the first time that. Neto is a very detailed and he knows who he is. He's dominant. He's one of those big figures in European basketball who's like, he's everywhere. When he's around, he's everywhere. But I think he was the guy that just the whole process of how we thought about things. This is where I learned that it's the players' game. And since then, everything that you do affects you in a good way, in a bad way. Nothing is just one way. Let's say you have a characteristic and you're doing something. It's usually, sometimes it works well and sometimes it works not as good. So it's not always a great thing, but I really think that the players, like the cliche said, they have the ball in their hands. We learn from them. But this is me as a coach. I see what the players do, and then I go and I try to translate it to my team, etc. And that's the difference between, somebody who really, really played it with the blood. And one more story about it. You remember that Final Four? Okay, I never watched that game, and we lost to Maccabi in a brutal semifinals. But you remember the Euroleague had its stage. It was in Milano.
In Milano, yeah.
And the lighting was that only the court was lit, and all the stands were in the dark. And we were sitting relatively in the dark, and with Ettore, he's a coach that sits down. We were on the bench, and in the most crucial moments of the game, in the end of the fourth quarter, the game was played on the other side, and we're sitting on the bench in the dark, and we have zero control of what's going on. I mean, we can't take million timeouts. It's your league, and really the players get it done. I mean, they just control everything. And this is when I figured, okay, it's all the fundamentals that they were taught, and the decisions and the habits, everything that all their careers, that now, this is what decides the game. We have zero control of what's going on the other side when we're here in the dark.
And that's one thing at that same Final Four was the speech at halftime of the third place game that we had to play. And it went kind of viral. I remember there was like back then it was not so much in social media, but there was some articles about like the speech that, was there's different opinions on what Ettore was saying. But in regard the message he was saying and he was sending was he practices pressure so that in these moments they can be able to handle it by their own, on their own, and that thing stuck with me a lot because that's something that you kind of have to put them in position. You have to prepare for those situations, and then you're hoping for the best, basically. And then you kind of correct them along the way. But in the moment of truth, as you also that was your favorite sentence I learned from you. In the moment of truth, whether it's the screen, whether it's like a handoff, what decision are you going to make? And that's things that the players have to be able to make this decision on their own and live on their own on the court independently, knowing what was implanted to them as you prepare 10 months for that final segment, of whether it's the Final Four or the finals of the playoffs. They have to have it ingrained in their DNA.
Yeah, and you know, again, the things that influenced me in the Final Four, but when we were coaching Maccabi, then again we're talking about 2004, 5, 6. There wasn't so many microphones, and
Mhm.
in the Final Four, I just remember in retrospect they put a microphone there, and there was a documentary about the Final Four. We felt that we had a lot of control of our team and that we're doing such great things as Maccabi coaches. And we were playing, and until these days, a lot of people play, a lot of those actions, the Maccabi flow offense and stuff like that. And we were thinking how great we are. And then I remember watching the documentary, and it followed the players and the level of communication between Sharas and Derek Sharp and Nikola Vujicic. And I remember telling Pini, you're not even aware of what's going on in the court. I mean, we think we control everything, but the level of verbal communication and instruction, I mean, these guys are coaching themselves.
Yeah.
And 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 regarding what you said about pressure and stuff like that, there's another Ettore now has an assistant coach, Pepe. I think that you know him, Pepe
Mm-hmm.
Poeta.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So we worked together the year that we were in Milano. He's also an ex-player, also played until a few years ago. And once again, that's another guy that, for whatever reason, I feel like I want to connect with, that he has a different, again, I'm coming from my view and he's coming from a different background and he has his thoughts, and it's interesting just to meet, this meeting of opinions and approaches. And he says something very interesting, that in today's world, like it used to be that you have to put the pressure on the players, like force them to work harder and to make sure that they are not relaxed. And when they get paid and they become rich, they don't stop working hard and paying attention to this. This was the world. And now he says something interesting. In these days, you have to calm them down,
Mm-hmm.
because there's so much pressure around them. And think about that. I mean, players that you're around, and how many followers they have, what kind of life they live, and what happens when they have a bad game. What happens when they go 1 for 9? They can't even open their phone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of flipped, and now you have to kind of take the other role.
Yeah, like it used to be like you kind of induce them with anxiety artificially, and now you got to kind of extract the anxiety out of them. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I never thought about that in terms of how much scrutiny they're under during the whole season if things are not going well. One thing that I was thinking about as we were talking was there something in your time as an assistant coach when you were preparing yourself to be a head coach, or you had an illusion of like how it's going to be, what you're going to do, and then you became a head coach at Hapoel Jerusalem, and you're like it's a wake up call, or maybe it came later at a later stage as a head coach, where like the things I was thinking about of who I will be as a head coach are completely like maybe not completely different, but these certain things that you may be thinking of were completely different than what I've imagined to be as a head coach.
Yeah. Well, as I said, for me, it took a long time, but it takes a long time to really figure out who you are and what you like, as a coach, as a human being. I mean, you can be something that you're not. And I'm, for example, and again, the guy that, really played a very significant role in my life. I mean, I worked with a lot of great people and great coaches, David Blatt and Pini Gershon and more. But Ettore had a huge effect on me in the way that I'm thinking, the way I think. I think maybe it's probably, the similarity. Maybe I'm, in certain things similar to him, and being logical and talking to the players in a very honest way. And almost, I would say, zero manipulations, and just full partnership in a logical way, in an intelligent way. These are the guys that I would like working with. These are the things that I like in the game, and I understand that it's not everything. But when I became a head coach, I just came to the knowledge of this is what I like and what I need next to me, with me, to complete the picture. and but I like precision. I like organization. I like everything to be super organized. I like sometimes too organized. Everything, as I said, is good and bad. Some people like things to be organized because it knows what to do, but when is it organized and when are you taking away the creativity, from people around you? So everything works both ways. When you are an assistant coach, when you work with a guy like Ettore, then you become a head coach. Then you really have a better view of the world, of life, and of how to structure your staff, your team, what you want to do.
I think the key in what you said also is that you have to be nimble as a head coach. You have to have like core values that you believe in, like these pillars. That's what you defines you as a head coach, and you don't want to budge on that. But there's a lot of wiggle room in between that, because each team can be different, and you have to adjust sometimes to the team, because not the whole team. There's just different characters on each team that you coach. Even one character can change the dynamic within the team the next season. So I think that like there is certain things you have to have, that what you believe in and you're not going to budge on, but there's a lot of gray area that you have to be able to be nimble and be able to adjust and pivot if like pun intended, if need be. Was there a difference between Ettore Cesca and then after his NBA time and then when you worked with him in Milano? Did you notice a vast difference as an assistant coach in how he operated?
Yeah, big time, Benas. I mean, it's not a different Ettore. I mean, it's it's the same person, but the Ettore that we had, I first of all, it's also natural that it was almost 10 years after, and we were both different. Like we're both more mature, we're both older, and we both have a different. And it was way more friendly when I came to work with Ettore the first time. It was brutal. It wasn't easy. It was an experience, and the last time was amazing because it was very friendly, and it definitely didn't change. People adjust. People adjust with experience. You're always influenced by your last stop. I'm now a GM. I'm watching Jonathan alone, our coach, working, and I'm sure that if I will coach again, which I'm pretty sure I will, I know that he will influence me. He's working differently than me. And the last thing that I've seen and I like, and I think that he's doing right, I probably gonna, incorporate it into my style. So yeah, he came from the NBA and he came from 5 years with Greg Popovich, who is an amazing personality. He actually spent a week with us in Milano, okay, when we were there. And one thing is the technical stuff that you do, how you do things, short film, short practice, but this is not the most important thing. Ettore it was really fun to be in that staff. Now, we were a great staff. You, Dima, myself. I think I came already at the point that, in a coaching staff, I'm telling that to my people now that I work with, we talk about the team all the time. You guys have to play together. You guys have to connect. You guys have to find a way to make the other guy play well. He's struggling, what you can do for him. Tons of stories like that. But as a coaching staff, we're a team too. So we're together too. And Ettore really invests in his team, right? The dinners and the time together and all the meetings, and he invests in it. But the assistant coaches are also a staff. It's also a mini group that you really have to be together. And but that team together with the coaches there, it was a lot of fun in Milano. Always fun. Okay, where with in CSKA, it wasn't always. It was always, I wouldn't describe it always as fun, but it was much more personal. That's the main thing. And, we finished the season good. We had a lot of challenges during the season. Unfortunately, let's say from the professional angle, I decided after that season to come back home and to be with family. But the professional experience was amazing. Generally speaking, Olympia Milano is an amazing place, one of the best organizations in sports in the world. Okay, just the way they do it, to spend a year with them, just to see how organized they are. Everybody knows their job, how everybody's so, the behavior in the organization, how clean it is. It's amazing. Not a lot of places in Europe are like that.
And that's the one thing with fun in the staff. Like you have to have fun going to work every day on a daily basis. Like otherwise, it's going to be a really long and strenuous season on everybody, on the family, on the staff.
I'm not great with that, Benas. I'm not great with that. It's not always.
There's you have to find ways. Like there's a creative ways to make it fun. There's like a joke here and there. You can find ways if you have like a intuition and a little bit of a sense of humor, and yeah, we figured each other out also on while we started to work. What how we tick as a staff, how we tick as a person, and everybody ticks differently. But then that comes also with trust. Like you have to cultivate trust within the staff in certain ways. And like you said, at the dinners that we always had, and I'm sure that came also from Popovich. And then there's a lot of things that you can do to cultivate trust within the staff. What do you remember? What as a head coach that you were trying to do also to for the staff to be able to trust you and for you to be able to trust your staff, that there's no backstabbing behind the back.
Yeah. No, well, in all honesty, when I say you need to know who you are, then I'm not great with that. There are coaches that are much better with creating under all circumstances great environments in the room. And I, but I worked with a lot of great people. Like I always took very, very good, smart, um, talented people to work with me always, everywhere. And almost all of them became head coaches and successful head coaches. Like Jonathan Alon, our head coach right now, we work together for, more than multiple years. Modi Mao was now in Japan, who inherited the New Zealand Breakers, and a lot of other coaches that worked with me were all very talented. And while we worked, there was great, respect, appreciation, but I'm very, that's my style. Again, it works for good and bad. I come to a meeting. I want everybody to be prepared. I want everything to be on time. So I have a clock, like everybody, a lot of places do that, but I have a daily clock, and an hour before you got to be with the players. So when we start, we need to finish in an hour. So everybody needs to come and talk to the point. And if that doesn't happen, the minute it doesn't happen, then there's always a little bit of friction. So it's not easy. And again, a lot of it came from like being sharp from Ettore. And you're watching clips. You don't want to watch a lot of clips. That's one of the things that happened. That changed in the last 20 years. The amount of time spent in film room and with reports and stuff like that with the players. So I want every clip to be perfect to tell the story that it needs to tell. So the work is not always pleasant. Like when you're really working like that. My way of doing that, again, in all honesty, I'm not great with that. My way of doing that is always to build the staff in a way that there are people like Pepe in it. Pepe is a connect. Okay, this is something. Jonathan Alon, when I was coaching Holon in Israel, he was my assistant coach. He was a connector, big time connector, and there are people like that. And I'm not a great connector. Like it's not like when I come, I'm not terrible with it. Like I have, like there's always in the room there is sense of humor and there's an intelligent conversation, but there's also some friction. And I always need somebody to be like to lead and to connect the people. And this is like the greatest ones are people like Pepe in my mind that can do both at the same time, can demand and have things done their way, and at the same time really, really see each and every person over there, what he's experiencing, etc. And I'm a little bit more target oriented. Like I want to get there. I want this done this way, and I want this done in the shortest way possible.
Yeah. Yeah. That's before we go into this to transition from coaching aspect to the front office aspect. Did you know I have a sponsor?
No, I did not.
You did not, huh? Okay, all right.
Who's
My
the sponsor?
sponsor, proballers.com.
You deserve a big time sponsor. Who's that?
proballers.com.
Ooh.
we are big time in here, and I'm gonna share my screen with you, so we can go through certain things, and you tell me what you're looking at. Can you see my screen?
Now I can.
Okay, so we're gonna type in here Hapoel Jerusalem, and now we're just gonna go to your last game, which was a Eurocup game, and I want you to tell me what do you look at when you look at the stats once they load, because my internet is a little bit not as nimble and flexible as I like it to be. Um, what are some things as a head coach or as a coach? Now I'm waiting. I'm still waiting. We're waiting for my Wi-Fi. All right, here. So as a coach, what do you look at the box score? What things you look at the box score versus front office GM position? Is there a difference in what you look at the stats? Because I know this game, it was a it was a blowout at one point, then it got a little bit like 17 at the end of the day. But um, you while you watch the game, you're thinking about certain things, and then you continue to look at the box score after the game. Is there a difference on what you look at as a coach versus a front office expert?
I think that we all look at the same things as the players. That's the points. How many points the players scored? I'm just kidding, Ben.
It's like, I get you.
You were a little, you went
I
along
remember.
with that.
No, I remember your humor. I remember your humor.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta tell you, going into data and stats is I wouldn't want to bore you with that. It's such a long conversation. Number one, I have to tell you, there's a new Chrome. You need to update your Chrome a little bit more frequently. And the basic stats that you're looking over, I'm kind of scrolling, looking at our field goal percentage, number of threes we took compared to the number of twos we took, the plus minus. Okay, not that it's a figure that I don't always jump, but yeah, it does interest me if somebody in a game that we won by 17, 20 points, who was part of it, who was not part of it. It's not like an automatic great or terrible. Okay, we know that the sample size needs to be bigger, but these are the main things. That's the obvious things that jump at you, like very high turnover game, crazy offensive rebound game, stuff like that.
But is there anything that changed your perspective? Because you said you're data driven, but is there something you changed over the course of let's say like the last 20 years of your career that you start to look at more?
Yeah, not even looking at more, but first of all, I'm way more skeptical when I look at data, and just because you need much greater data today, it was used to be very obvious. Okay, where 20 years ago, what the game plan should be according to the stats. Okay,
Mhm.
it was even there was the moment that Penny Gershon used to say, I'm planning the game and I'm planning the strategy just by the numbers. Okay, I don't even need to watch film. And it became much more complicated. So once in a while, we look at, the net plus minus of a player over a longer period of time,
Mhm.
looking at not just individuals, just our team, how we compare with the rest of the league and everything. Pace is very important. Like, how do we want to be? Field goal percentage is very important. Like, what kind of team do you want to have? But at the same time, I'm much more skeptical than I used to be, just because I know so much data is hidden. It's not in the numbers.
Mhm.
Like, yesterday I had a conversation with somebody. I explained to him, let's say I'm taking an extreme situation. Let's say you are the best player in the world and they trap you every time. They just jump at you every fucking time and get the ball out of your hands. And the ball is passed like 3 times. Okay. Let's say you play 90 pick and rolls in the game. Perfect trap every time. You hit the short roll. Short roll makes another pass to the corner. The corner drives gets another pass and we get an open three, we make it every time. So the man in the corner, he's got 200 points. The guy who drove the baseline has 90 assists, but the guy who's being trapped the whole game has nothing. Okay, he's got a big 0-0-0 in the game. So that's obviously an extreme, but so many things are hidden. They're not really in there. I think the NBA has much better stats and databases than we do. And we really look into things and judge them.
Yeah, I think like the eye test has to match up with the stat test. Like there's certain things that you feel as on the sideline also, and you kind of want to confirm by the numbers, and vice versa. Sometimes you look at the numbers and you kind of have to check through and watch it and see if it really matches with what you see on paper. Yeah, everybody
I
who
just see it, for example, Ben, sorry to cut you off. I see that,
yeah.
yeah, there are some clear cuts, there is this player who's just a 3-point shooter and a great passer. This is what he does. And he's a great player, but he never drives. And you can change the cover and you can adjust the cover and you can do something special. But so many other players, they don't just go right. Okay.
Yeah.
They can go right and left and shoot, if that's why they're in the Euroleague. And if he rejects all the time, you don't know if he rejects because the cover was,
Mhm.
uh, hedge or drop, or they just weak him and ice him. So he goes away from the screen. So the data says he rejects, but it's not really a reject, etc., etc. It's more complicated game than baseball to really just have clean numbers.
100%. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. There's those things I also saw flaws in that when you're scouting games and then you see some data that was given to you and you kind of compare and you see that there's a coverage that forces him to do it to play a certain way and it's easier for him to make those decisions. But yeah, everybody who's interested in stats, proballs.com is the platform to go to. And Dan is also a fan of proballs.com. Constant
Huge fan.
visitor. So as while you were a coach and then you became a GM, was there certain things that you were worried about as a coach that when you became a GM that you kind of look back and like you tell the coach not to worry about? Is there certain things that from this angle as a GM that you're trying to give the coach the input of not to worry about certain aspects of the game that you were also worried about as a coach?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I took this opportunity because, the opportunity presented itself. Great people, interesting place. And I thought, yeah, let's give it a shot, change one more time, pivot and do something a little bit different around the game. But I had this experience in my life that I went to a few places as a head coach and they asked me to kind of bring management skills. Even Jerusalem, my first coaching job, it was after I told you Maccabi was this big firm and they did things in a very special way. And, Final Four was in Tel Aviv in my first year in Maccabi. And, a lot of front office, NBA GMs, a lot of people were in Tel Aviv and some of them, were friends, friendly with us. And some of them said, we're missing that in the NBA. Okay, it's 20 years ago. So many things that you guys are doing, the way you're doing it with the players and the way you treat them, etc. Okay, I think world has changed, but it had a special way. And when I went to Jerusalem, they told me, we want you to bring the Maccabi way with you. Like, how you treat the players, how you get them and how it's done, how the staff is managed, etc. And it happened to me a few times later too. And when I went to New Zealand with a team in the Australian League, New Zealand Breakers, and that was part of it. The owner told me, listen, we want somebody from Europe. We want to play like that. And we want to be that kind of an organization that is more European. It's a different side of the world. We do things differently over here. We need somebody to bring a little bit the different style. And so I had that, everywhere I went, I needed to organize things. And as I told you, I really like order in everything. Going into Jerusalem as a GM now, it was focus on that. Okay, let's focus on the organization and how we do things and the processes. But at the end of the day, I am a coach in my mind, meaning I'm thinking as a coach. I grew up, I've been a coach all my life. Okay. Uh, I'm one of those people that are pretty rare in my environment that knew what they wanted to do all their life. I was 15 years old, as I said, and I was always walking. My friends from high school always tell me that I was walking with like coach's book and coach's clipboard. I was already coaching. I was very young, and spent most of my life psychologically. So also as a GM, I want to be the GM that I would want as a coach.
Mhm.
So I don't do coaches' decisions. And, again, the way I think is organized. So this is a coach's decision. So it's up to you. And this is something that I need to look at, take care of. That's me. And I kind of want to bring this way of thinking. And the place that really influenced me greatly, as I said, is Milano, because
Mhm.
Milano is a very well organized, great dignity in a way, also similar to our organization. Like this is the similarity that I found. It's when you work in Milano, the Armani name is there. It's
Mhm.
everything that you do when you think about how we're going to do it, what we're going to do here, you're carrying the Armani name. And when I started this job here with Jerusalem, it has some similarity. We have an owner, a very special family that the father created this family brand, made a lot of money, and passed away a few years ago. And the son is the owner, but it's a name. It's a name in the country, and you need to kind of do things in light of this. You're carrying a name, and you want to do things in a professional, fair, um, business oriented, but also with a lot of dignity with how you do things. Again, I still think that when I watch the game, I can't avoid watching it as a coach. Okay, I can't
Mhm.
avoid
Mhm.
thinking, as a coach, although it's a different look. Like when I watch other games, all of a sudden I'm not looking at plays. I'm not looking just at actions and substitution policy and what did the coach did and how is he managing the game. So I'm looking at individuals all of a sudden, only what this guy does, and do I
Yeah.
like how he plays, and what is he doing when it's a blowout, and all these things. Everything is very players oriented. I always envied all those guys that all they see is moving individuals playing basketball, and I always thought about only the big picture. But I still think that I'm still thinking that I'm bringing like an ex-coach kind of GM.
Yeah, yeah, which is I think a healthy way to look at the game also, especially for the coach to feel comfortable that there's like a mutual respect and a separation from the positions, and then you give him autonomy, and the coach, as I think it's key that the coach doesn't feel threatened, like there's like a certain level so he can coach freely and not think about oh how should I please the GM or how should I please the front office, because that's when it starts to unravel, and then you start
Yeah.
not coaching the way you want to coach.
Yeah.
Truly.
At the same time, yeah, for sure. Like there are a few, let's say, ground rules. There's no way I'm going to replace the coach. Okay.
Mhm.
Everybody knows that. I've said it multiple times, saying it to you. I mean, that's an international podcast. It doesn't matter to anybody, but there's no way that I'm stepping into that role. Never going to happen. And, and I offer my service, and if it's Jonathan alone, who it was a guy that I worked with in the past, and as the head coach, he was my assistant coach, and you want me to tell you what I would do now? I don't know if this is what you should do. You want me to tell you what I would have done and what's my analysis? I cannot tell you what to do. Again, you're not going to do anything just because I tell you to do it. You need to really believe and find your way. There's no one formula, and my formula is definitely not necessarily the right one. So, but yeah, it's great for him. I think I would love it if I had somebody like that, just to
Yep.
have his opinion with all experience. Hey, how do you cover that? How did you cover that? Because be honest with you, basketball wise, I really, just because of what I told you my background, I really kind of played with everything. I forced it to the baseline and forced it up the floor, and I tried to attack the mismatch like that and put the space like that, and then I changed, etc. So I offer that. But let's say someday, in the future, I'm going to work with somebody else who's, not Israeli and he's coming to Israel. I think it's great to have somebody like that. Like I would love to have somebody like that who's on your side, gives his opinion. Also, also his opinion again as a coach, like a real advice. Again, I'm very organized in my mind. It's
Yeah.
you worry about the here and now, you worry about today's practice, you worry about
Yeah.
winning the next game, you worry about who starts, what are you going to tell the players, and I will try to take care of all the rest, everything outside the court, everything longer term, other things that we have in the organization.
And that's like one thing I have to clarify. Like we've known each other for a long time, so I'm asking all these questions without being really intrusive because like I don't know any internal dynamics or anything like that. I'm just like that's the curiosity that I'm trying for the people I think would ask themselves also. So it's not like I'm trying to be provocative or anything, but you get it, I get it. Maybe the people don't get it that are listening. In terms of your position now, also as a GM, how much do you control for culture? Because it's not only basketball responsible for, like you run the club as well, like from the top down. And I think a lot of things in every big organization start from the top down. Like Brad Stevens sets the tone for the whole organization, the way he carries himself and the way he presents and the way he treats people. So I think there's a lot of those things that I think that people in the leadership position have to be aware of how certain manners, how certain words can affect the whole culture of the team internally, and it can make or break a team long term because you say one thing, you behave one way to a person, and somebody picks it up. It's like, oh, he said this to him, and it can be contagious. So there's a really a high awareness of how you have to behave when people are around, and in general of what kind of tone you set. So what things do you look for, and how do you feel you can impact the culture the most in Jerusalem?
A big part of my day to day. It's my second year. Spent the first year. First of all, it's normal, but in my mind, I had to do a lot of work in organizing my department the way I want it to be. The organization is probably divided to two main sub-organizations, the basketball side, the team, and the non-basketball, meaning marketing and ticketing and media and stuff like that. So I spent a whole lot of time in organizing that. And, I'll start with the important things. First of all, um, we're communicating. Okay. You can all voice your opinion. Anybody can say anything that he thinks is important, but you need to do it in the right place, to the right person, in an organized way. So everybody is working similar to every company. You're working under somebody. So we have logistics crew, and we have the physio crew, and we have the doctors, and every little organization needs to work the right way. And if you feel that you need to voice something, then you definitely can. We don't tell anybody to shut up, but you have to do it in the right place and manner. You don't just step over people, okay, all the time. That's number one. When we make decisions, we know who makes the decision. Okay, in every organization, somebody needs to decide something. So coaches make the decision of the coaches. Okay, so nobody's going to come and tell the coach, you need to play that guy more. You need to start that guy because I just tell you to do so. Everything that has to do with coaching, that's the coach's territory, and everything that has to do with owner needs to decide. We help. We have a dialogue, but the right guy makes the decision. Okay, whoever is in charge. Once somebody makes a decision, everybody is behind it. If you don't want to be behind it, that's the door. Okay, we all stand behind it. We accept this mechanism. We work in a logical way. Okay, it's a business of emotions. When we play bad, Ettore said that when we play bad, but we find a way to win at the end, everybody goes home happy, and vice versa. When we are 80% of the time, we're playing okay, we're doing the work, we're making the right reads, but at the end of the day, we get blown out in 3 minutes and we lose, then it's a disaster. But we still always work in a rational, intelligent way. We work together. That's important. We work with partners. We don't. When you go to New Zealand, then I came very, very, let's say, polite, and let's say I tried to blend in and go, but I still wanted to coach my team. I still want to say, hey, this is how we do it. This is what I want you to do. I want you to play this role. As I said, I kind of, want to be clear. Clarity is a big thing for me. And I was taken by some people and said, listen, we don't talk to people like this over. And it was very extreme, but I took something with me. It's not that I embraced it and that I do it everywhere. No, but I do remember that they told me in New Zealand, there's no hierarchy. There is no hierarchy. It sounds weird, but in New Zealand, if the prime minister walks in the street, maybe somebody will ask for a selfie, but nobody's going to bother. Back then, her, I'm not sure about now. If Steven Adams is in a flight, then he's just a regular guy, and that's nice. And that's what we try. So we're an organization with hierarchy and with ego, but we still work together in everything. And luckily, again, I think it's a unique place. I was lucky to work in very good places. Milano is a very unique place, and Jerusalem is right now a very unique place. Matan is the owner, Gal Mekel with him, Jonathan the coach. We're all on those big things. We're on the same page.
That's good. So can you paint the picture to me? Because I like to learn visually more. So what are the main pillars? If you have ownership on top, your position in the middle, how would you put the pillars around it like this? I guess you would put basketball and coaching on one side, then you said the marketing, ticketing on one side. How would you structure and paint the picture for me if you have to do it visually?
In terms of the organization?
Yeah, in terms of what
First of all, these days we are work in progress. Be honest with you, the basketball side was, we did a lot of work in the last 12 months to organize it in a way that we really like. We have a new CEO. We need to do the same kind of work in those sides of the organization, like organizing the processes and the workflow, etc. And naturally, these departments work independently a lot. The basketball team flies a lot, travels a lot. You're in practice every day. You're with the same people. We have our challenges also geographically. Our offices are not where we practice, and we have 2 arenas. So we have our challenges. We don't see some of the members of the organization on a daily basis, but there's also a lot of areas of flow together. And this is, every company works like that in an organized way with good policy, established policy about every possible thing. And this is what Matan wants to do. He came in, really wanted to build the organization the way in a smart, organized way. And but the main thing are not it's not the structure, it's not the technical part. The main thing is how the people work with each other. That's what I was referring to before. I don't want to see, now it's easy to say I don't want to see, but I don't want to see in the media somebody in the organization said something about without his name on, about whatever, a player, a coach, ownership, etc., etc. We try to control this kind of stuff, going along with the values that I mentioned before.
Yeah, you speak in my language when you talk about communication. That's one thing is external communication. That's with anything that's said outside, but internally, when you said that how you don't step over people, you don't disrespect people within an organization. You want to stay you want to have a cohesive unit. What are some, if you say the top 3 no-nos that you don't want to say, okay, you don't step over people, you disrespecting. What are what would you say would be other 2 that in terms
step
of
over
communication?
people? Again, it's I don't want people to be scared. I want people to take initiative. As I said, everything. Again, this is also something that I learned from Ettore in terms of mindset. I'll give you the example. Let's say that you had a very bad game with how you covered pick and rolls. Okay, you were just attacked, and you're thinking now, do you want to change? Do I want to do it differently, or do I want to just do it better, do the same thing better? And the decision that you take can be interpreted like we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what's going to be the outcome, but the decision to make can really go both ways. It really, if you are changing, then you can be perceived as innovative, creative, not stubborn. Look at this guy, he's so smart. He watches the game, he makes the right adjustments, etc. But at the same time, you're doing the same decision, you take the same step, and you can be perceived as inconsistent, doesn't have a way, lost,
overreacting,
etc. And vice versa. If you don't change, you just stay with it. Some people, some players, it can be perceived as, okay, this guy has his way, he demands, he knows what he wants, he has a system, etc. Such a great value. Or he can be stubborn, stuck, old-fashioned, etc., etc. So everything can really work. I mean, you want, but as I said, the big no-nos are to break those rules without any, like, players break a rule once in a while, sometimes they win a game, sometimes you do something, you take the shot that you've been told not to take the shot and you win the game. So these things happen. So you have to have a good reason to break one of those rules. You have to have like a big red flag above it. But I don't want to see people just getting into other people's job with no reason. Okay, that's not your responsibility. And if you want to say something, say it in the right place. But really respect your position. Really respect your job. I don't like gossip at all, so be human. It's normal when you and me, we work. It's normal that once in a while you talk a little bit and you get you take care of your frustration. We're not working, it can't be 100% clean because you're spending 24 hours together and in flights and you're in the airports and you're tired and after the game. So it's normal, like, you help each other manage, but there's a very clear line when it becomes gossip, when people are just talking about each other. That's something that we slap on the hand and we give a little yellow card. And generally speaking, we want to say, I mean, it's a cliche, but it's true. We want to see people focused on what they have to do, working with each other. That's an example for the players. The players need to work with each other. We need to work with each other. We need to be honest. Like when I'm a coach, I ask my assistants, I tell them, when you talk to a player and the player wants to complain about me and he wants to tell you, I don't understand what he wants from me. If you're going to be like, hey, I don't talk about the coach, that's, because you're scared, then you have no value for the player.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to have, that's why I pick smart people who can really do the right thing, meaning get honest and open up with the player and have a conversation, and also in the organization, but always do it for the greater good, for the cause of the team to win. If you are working for me, regardless of how bad we're doing, of how tough it is, do it, I would say, about myself. Regardless, whatever happens, when I'm an assistant coach, I do everything for the coach to, finish the season, have success, for the things to really start working together. So I want this honesty. I want people who allow themselves to do that, but in a way that will help the organization.
I think that's also one key thing. Like, you do want to work with intelligent, smart people that can relay a message in a way that's can be receptive. That they setting a message and receiving a message. It's really, there's two different things, and how it can be interpreted and in what context, what surrounding. Like you go and sit down and have an official meeting about something small. You feel like, Man, this is kind of, I'm getting nervous for no reason. Like you have to have a way of like communicating in a casual way, but getting your message across so that the person gets what you're trying to say. Sometimes it's a little bit between the line, the high context. You kind of paint the picture and let them understand the message. And some players get it, some people get it on the staff, some people don't get it. So you really, and sometimes not everybody's on the same level of understanding. So it can be difficult, especially when you go from culture to culture. So I think that those things of relaying a message in a non-confrontational way, and in like a really easily understandable, but not an aggressive way. I think that's like this little key to good communication. Um, Before we go into the ATOs, which you haven't heard about yet, I'm gonna drop like a little place for you, question place,
Love your
quick.
ideas.
Um, but one last thing about the basketball part of a GM job is dealing with agents also, and finding out. For example, I was trying to think of some topic in that regard was of finding the right value and the price of a player. Because when you deal with the agent, there's going to be they're dealing with a lot of teams. How do you go about finding the right price for the player and finding and how to allocate and then negotiate with the agent? Just finding out the right price, you know what I mean? Like there's like prior seasons, prior teams, markets, raise of value.
Yeah. Agents, workers as well, because I'm in charge of the compensation of all my everybody who works on my side of the organization, and you just need to have logic. Now that's you have to have you have to have an ability to evaluate. It's very hard, sometimes because it sometimes it's just pure negotiation and what you're willing to do and does it make sense to you. We can't always be correct. It's not mathematics, obviously, but it has logic, and unfortunately in today's ecosystem in basketball, some places are not logical, in terms of the finances, and it's like being a kid going to a toy store and just I want this and this and that, and it doesn't matter what the price is. Or imagine yourself like normal people like me and you who have we're not we can go to a coffee shop and take whatever they want without looking at the price. Then some people operate like that in our business, and obviously in some places there are no regulations, etc. I need to have, again, logic to everything. So it needs to make sense in our team. It can't happen that all of a sudden it doesn't relate to what kind of numbers we have in the organization. So who you are in the organization has to reflect in a way who you are in the team, and it has to do with the benchmarks, okay, in the industry. And we have some ways to try to figure out and to get the intel on what the guy has and does it make sense for him. And obviously I took this job a year ago, and it's been tough to do business because of the situation in the Middle East and how hard it is to get players. And my life is normal here. Okay, I live almost normal life. But if I tell you, hey, come work in Israel, I'm sure that you're thinking, I mean, now with the ceasefire and life is back to normal, it's much better. But during the summer, and it was hard even to predict that, it was impossible until you see no to Israel, we don't go because of the security situation, and that puts a totally new number, a new value to every deal that you make. But as I said, the idea, because it's not the NBA and it's not open and it's not public, still to put some kind of logic to what you do.
Yeah, but that's one thing I was wondering is that there's probably have some context sources around in the basketball business that you can kind of have a range, probably like figure out a range for a player in that regard if it's more or less normal.
Yeah. I mean, if you're coming to play in Jerusalem, and I think it should be like that everywhere, wherever you are, you're not coming only for the money. So the money should be okay. It's a big part of what we do, and it's a big part of every deal. But it's not only that; it's also the professional situation, your growth, your position on the team, who the teammates are, who to play with, what it's going to do to you, and it's just one important part of a deal.
Yeah. Okay. Ready for my ATOs? Shooting?
I hope I am. I don't know if I am.
I'm,
It's hard to get ready for ATOs. I need to
I'm
prepare the defense.
You're organized. You got it. You'll get it. Um, First, quick question, quick answer. First thing that comes to mind. Biggest question you ask yourself in the off season.
In the off season,
Off season.
biggest question. Short answers, huh? I mean, the obvious answer is where do we need to upgrade? What is the continuity that is needed? Okay, what's the DNA of the team, and what's in? Does it connect to the DNA, or do we want to change it?
And biggest question you ask yourself during the season, in season.
I mean, that's only what can we do better today. Okay, every day, it's you want a short answer, but biggest crises that we've had, and okay, that great team that won the Euroleague had some serious crises during the season, and one of them we lost to Hapoel Tel Aviv. We lost the derby by 25 points, and that's, I mean, you can imagine what it is. And the next day, coaches met. We were walking around in the stadium, and we made a plan of 3 points. Okay, this is what we're going to do tomorrow in practice. And I took this experience with me. Every day focus on 2 or 3 things that you need to do today, that you need to fix or reinforce, etc. So for trying to do this almost every day.
If you had to teach a class tomorrow, other than about basketball, non-basketball topic, what would it be about?
It relates. I mean, so many things about life. I would, teach. I don't know. Teach. Teach is a big word.
Lecture.
I like to
Share.
share. I like to share my experiences. I like when people share with me. I like to hear your story, your view, what you learned. I don't like to tell anybody what to do. The older you get, the more humble you become. You know that you don't know much. World is changing, but it's interesting. It's always. I mean, you always listen to podcasts. You always listen to other things. You always pick up something, like a phrase, a terminology, a thought. You listen to people from all possible industries. So I would share about a lot of things in life. Obviously, the most important thing in life, Benas, is your family. Okay, that's the most important thing, and all the rest will always be number two. Okay, that's the furthest it can get, and I have 3 kids, and this is probably the thing that I would love to share the most.
Best personal purchase that you bought for yourself in the last 12 months?
I'm not a big materialistic guy. Really, no. I mean, it's we're very, like, our family. We live very, very, normal. More than normal, and yeah, it's definitely not. So it's probably some subscription that I made. Something one of that.
Let's
Yeah,
say investing time with your family. That's probably like the best, like purchasing time and investing it in family. That's what it sounds like.
yeah, yeah. Good.
Okay, my last one is the Tim Ferriss question that I ask everybody. Your favorite failure that you learned the most from in the past that you had, like something you failed at, but you're glad you kind of did it. So you had like a quick learning curve and came out on the better side.
I mean, what amazes me that I can't finish an interview or a podcast or anything like that without mentioning Glenn Rice Jr. It's a guy that I brought to Jerusalem, to Holon, and we're big on character. We check and we get the intel, but we had to gamble. We had to take a little bit of a risk, and I spoke to him and he sounded great. He sounded amazing. And he's telling me, listen, I really need that. I'm 27 years old. I figured it out. And I really needed a player at this position. And I brought him, and it was very hard because of off-court issues. But at the same time, it was like coaching Beethoven or something like that, like a guy who can really do everything. Like you're just watching him play. And once again, it ended badly. I mean, we won the Israeli Cup. We were the best team in Israel for a while. And then something happened and we had to kick him out of the team. And it was, and we actually brought him back. We made it to the finals of the League, but he's a very not Dan Shamir kind of guy to bring. I'm never going to do that again. That mistake of bringing somebody who's out of control and making this compromise because you want the talent, but at the same time, it was my most fascinating experience. Put a player that doesn't need coaching, who's so smart, sees everything, knows and understands everything, makes everybody better. Really genius. I mean, you work with a lot of great players, okay, great, amazing players. But that guy, he can step off the court and not prepare and not do anything. And all the other players are working 24/7 and eating right and stretching and doing the core work and they're in the weight room. And he just steps on the court and drops 30 and passes and reads everything and sees everything. So that was a big failure, but one that I would take with me.
You got tempted. You got tempted.
Yeah.
All right, Dan Shamir, everybody. Thanks a lot, Dan. It's been very, very.
I've been waiting for it for years, and it was worth it.
You're surprised, huh?
It was worth it, man.
It was worth it. Well, I'm glad I could brighten up your day a little bit. And
when do we see you?
When do we see? I don't know. I have to get, first of all, I have to see myself in a healthy fashion and get ready to conquer the basketball
Check
world
the
again.
Jerusalem schedule and find a player that you need to scout, and I want to see you somewhere.
Got it. On it. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Bye, my brother.
All right.
Good talking to you.
Yep. You too. See you soon.